further into the realm of ludic narrative. Hopefully, it'll catch it, and it won't post to the Discord because I don't want people to get a bunch of shit sent to their Discord saying Dylan's streaming French the French game again. I'm not doing that today. I did that yesterday. Today we do something completely different. Today we do video games from the Finish It Narrative Game Jam 2022. So, I'm still eating. It's hard to fit a bunch of things into one day, as I have come to find. Okay, so we have played Orphanarium. I do not believe I will be playing Dominorum Raider, as I played that yesterday. There's a whole stream on that exact thing. You can just go watch it. It was from literally yesterday, but it's fun. I had a good time. I actually taught Latin very well. But yeah, he's getting plenty of my time. I don't think it would be very beneficial for me to stream that game again. MRI Simulator could be interesting. We have done Rat Race. That was a fun game. We've done Lakewood. That was intense. Gerrymander Me Baby. Seduce electoral districts and become the president. Probably what we're going to start with. I am so happy to see Pick Me Up from Toaster Strudel. And we still need to do Text Venture Mars, Journey Within, KDHW by the one and only Rinzai, and Harem Inspection. Okay, so I think what we'll do is begin with Harem Inspection. And that way, if it's like ridiculously brutal, and I've been duped into playing some fucking porn game, even though they claimed that it wasn't a porn game, but if I've been duped into playing some porn game, I can very quickly get out and switch gears and play something that's not that. Oh. Man, pizza is totally different in Germany. Frozen pizza specifically. I mean, like, the pizza at restaurants is also very good because it's usually made by actually Italian people. So that's nice. But frozen pizza is in an absolutely different galaxy. It is so much better than American frozen pizza. It is fucking wild. It is wild. Okay. So let's start with the potential porn game. It ranked in the bottom of every category, I believe. No thanks. Just take me to the downloads. As I am nothing is available to download. Okay, well then we're not playing it. I guess he actually really just wanted free advertising. Very interesting. Because I had removed that game from the jam submissions early on, and then he begged me to put it back in. So I said, "Okay, submit it again." He was like, "I swear it's not a porn game. Just please let me submit it." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, you can submit it. I'll try it." But nothing to download. Okay, cool. Well then. Let's see. I'm trying to find people that I may or may not have interacted with. This has the most compelling character. It should. It's called Bluebeard. So it's an actual, like, it's a real story. I don't know if people know the story of Bluebeard, but it's a very famous classic narrative. A lot of films. Bluebeard is one of the most retold stories in all of history. So, like, for example, the film Ex Machina is actually Bluebeard. It's a version of Bluebeard, right? And how a Bluebeard tale always goes, no matter what, is a young person is taken into the home by an older or more successful person, and the older, more successful person is charismatic, and they say you're allowed to do whatever you want. And how these people come together is not super important, but it is usually something along the lines of marriage, or in the case of Ex Machina, it's like a special opportunity from one's boss, right? Get the fuck away from my pizza, Baloo. And Discord now just decided to tell the folks that I'm streaming, so maybe I should wait to explain this. But I don't mind explaining it multiple times. So the younger person, the impressionable person, goes to the rich or charismatic or what have you's house through marriage or through a job opportunity or through whatever, right? And the rich, successful person says, you're allowed to do whatever you want here, except you can't go in that room. Not that one. Okay? That's the only thing you can't do. Everything else is fine. You can spend all my money. You can take your clothes off and spin around in a circle and pee on my refrigerator and watch TV all day. And, you can do whatever you want. You just cannot go directly into that room. Specifically only, right? And, of course, what happens? The protagonist gets curious, and then they inevitably go into the room, and then it becomes a horror a horror show, right? There's torture in the room. There's something. And in the case of Ex Machina, obviously, we learn about what is going on to the inner workings of the boss's spoiler alert spoiler, right? And that's a Bluebeard story, and that's what this is. So, an interactive version of Bluebeard, which I find very interesting. But Bluebeard is always an interesting character. And so this is looking like a classic retelling, as this is some original art from long time ago. Content warning: violence against women and gore. Got it. Begin tale. Chapter 1. A man has come to court your hand in marriage. He is not handsome, his figure gruff and large, his figure gruff and large, his beard strangely blue. Can you believe it? But this does not concern you or your parents, for he has other attributes. His wealth, it is said, is immense. His clothes are fine, his jewels glittering. It is said, too, that he owns an abundance of estates, each outfitted with the greatest of fineries and containing numerous casks of gold and silver. Oh. This is cool. You gotta love twine, huh? You can just make it big. Which is enough for your family to overlook his strange demeanor and urge you toward marriage. I love this. I'm actually so happy that I'm playing Bluebeard right now. In his courtship, your suitor welcomes you and your family to one of his country estates. Each day grants new pleasures, idle picnics for the ladies, hunting and fishing for the men, dancing and feasting for all. Seeking a moment of solitude amid the festivities, you withdraw to the gardens and rest upon a small bench. As you recline, your suitor approaches, his expression unreadable, revealing nothing of himself. This is great prose, by the way. I don't know if this is this isn't just copied. It seems I don't think this is the original text of Bluebeard. He says, "Of all the flowers in my garden, you're the most beautiful." You smile politely, and yeah, it couldn't be. I like this line. He frowns. Are you not pleased with the festivities I've arranged for you? I believe my dog is trying to kill a fly. Of course, you reply. We are all grateful for your generosity. I see, he says, though it was not you in particular I was hoping to please. His words have a sharp edge to them. it was you in particular. In reply, you lift your chin and directly meet his gaze. Lower your eyes, feeling uncertain. Lift your chin. His icy eyes bore into you, but you will not cower before him. The moment stretches, growing taut. He breaks first, eyes snapping away at some other point. Wow, interesting. Have I been mistaken in my intentions? He asks. I invited your family here for the sole purpose of forming a union between us, a union built on mutual trust, if not love. You consider his words. You know that there are men who are foxes, wolves, and tigers. There are men who are foxes, their red hearts sleek with cunning. They whisper through the world, slip through dappled days, and carry secrets in the crimson pelts, their smiles bright with needle teeth, their witty words allure into dank dens, so welcoming, so considerate, so greedy. Return. Wolves. This is just wonderful prose. I don't know if the person who did this is here, but it's great. There are men who are wolves with their too big ears, too large eyes, and too sharp teeth. They lurk along paths in anticipation of wandering red hoods. They huff and puff over their aching, ravenous bellies. They snap and snatch at any lost soul. This is good. Any lost soul ready at a moment to swallow them whole. It feels weird to reference a tale within a tale, just from like a prose standpoint. It kind of dilutes the idea that this is a genuine world. Granted, I understand that this is kind of in a almost like a footnote, but and tigers. There are men who are tigers, golden eyes calmly watchful from the tall grass of their desire, their gaze avid upon some pair of shapely thighs as upon a gazelle. Every stripe ripples as they slink by followers' primes. How do I ban you? I can never do it fast enough. Ban. There we go. Ban. You're banned. How do I... Oop. That was a mistake. There we go. Okay, I would like to close this now. There we go. To rake soft flesh with shining claws. You know there are men... Oh, wait, we know this. How does one judge another heart in such a sparse time? In the mere days you have known him, his words and manner revealed an intensity that unsettles you. Yeah, he has a blue beard. He holds out his hand, a question implicit in the gesture. The same question to which all the merriment of the past week has been building. His fingers curve in the anticipation of your hand joining his. He's waiting for you to choose him. He cannot see any other choice. I do like that there... I mean... It makes sense because, like, if you don't choose, then what happens with the narrative? But I do like that little ludic, like, you have to click it, right? Two hands are just two hands, just the flesh and bone and skin of strangers touching. Two hands joined together are a choice, a story shifting, shutting off one set of possibilities, opening others. You place your palm in his, accepting, oh, I actually do get to choose. Well, I have to choose this. You stand and turn away from him, wandering deeper into the garden. In the distance, you can hear the festivities still going, the delights of rich food and fine wine. Your parents will be disappointed that you have refused this, all the wealth that could have been yours and by extension theirs. But you don't worry about that for now. You weave through the garden, following various twisting paths. You choose one after another as if the possibilities were infinite. In some ways, they are. Over early ending, the many roads ahead. Consider another choice. Yeah, of course. Oh, cool. You just bring me right back here. Isn't that fantastic? You place your palm in his. You marry him. The small, bright church brims with family, the room resounding with liturgy and happy whispers speculating on your happy future. You stand in your glittering dress at the altar, and your husband stands beside you, a mountain adorned in a fur-lined coat. A mountain. Hymns are spoken, promises made. When he kisses you, the bristles of his beard tickle your chin. Disgusting. Let's eat a little piece of pizza. Let's move me down. There we go. unraveled the mystery of him. So this is the first time we've been together in the house. But you see, his home has now become yours, right? Except, in the days that follow, your husband remains a stranger. You study your husband, observe his manners. You look for some sign of affection. Measure each gesture for warmth. You watch the way he cuts his meat into tiny pieces before placing it in his mouth, careful not to drip fat on his beard. You watch the way he sits by the fire and cleans his nails. You watch the way he watches you, his eyes following your movements through each room with a measuring gaze. These are really well-chosen descriptors to make somebody sound very strange. And that gives me the impression that this person actually knows what they're doing. Right? Like cleaning your nails is weird. It's a strange behavior, right? It's a normal behavior, but to point it out is a strange behavior. That she pointed it out means that he does it strangely, and that he is doing that strangely means he is very strange, right? Because there's a lot of ways that you can mess that up. Like you could say the way he picks up his dog shit, and it just doesn't ring well. You know, it's hard to envision. How do you strangely pick up dog shit? With your mouth? Yeah, it's strange. With your bare hands? It's pretty good. But you have to choose really good details to describe characters, right? And I'm glad that the details are chosen as verbs. Because it's not just simply the way he exists. It's not a funny air about him. It's not, it's things that he does. You watch the way he watches you. I already know this. You sense an eagerness in him and anticipation. Here it comes. A week into your marriage, your husband suddenly announces his intention to leave. He has business matters to attend to, requiring him to be away for 6 weeks or more, but he will return as soon as he is able. Your husband, yeah, and this is, okay, so the person always has to leave. The Bluebeard always has to leave. Your husband hands you an iron ring of keys. As my wife, I entrust you with these keys, which open every door, wardrobe, and chest in this house containing all my wealth, he says. You are welcome to use every key, except for this one that opens the closet at the end of the passage on the ground floor. You hold the ring, heavy with the secrets it may unlock, and touch the little key, considering its importance. Bang. Therein lies the rub. Watching this gesture, your husband's expression takes on a note of severity. I forbid you from opening that door, he says, and if you disobey me in this, you may expect my anger and resentment. You feel suddenly tired. Promises are such heavy things, like lead upon the tongues when spoken. Do you understand? I understand. I'm going in there, but I understand. I promise. Yet you can feel the tug of temptation. The deep desire to know more of him, to unveil his secrets. He smiles at your acceptance, leans in, and places a kiss upon your lips. You wrinkle your nose at the way the whiskers of his beard itch your face. Ugh. He bows his goodbye and then is gone. I mean, if you like beard on your face, that's fine. I just don't. It feels weird for me to imagine, and I'm glad. Like, the details are working. They're doing what they're supposed to. You know what I mean? Like, that the beard scratching your face is not meant to make you feel more comfortable. Though I will say, I do wish that we had had a description of the smell of the beard. Because if we had a description of the smell, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, but the olfactory sense is incredibly powerful. And it can also be really tough to get right because the olfactory sense is so deeply ingrained, so deeply tied to memory, that if you use one that's not quite right, it will not land. It's very risky is what I'm trying to say. Smell is a very risky sense to try and describe. Because, like, When I smell ramen noodles, which I can't even find in Germany, but like if I smell Maruchan or specifically Nissin ramen noodles, I conjure a memory instantaneously of my childhood. Instantaneously. I can picture everything about it. My mom cooking it in the kitchen. I can remember the kitchen light. I can remember the way it reflected off of that particular color of like bright, weird yellow wood that was the kind of theme of the kitchen. I can remember the white countertop. I can remember that fishbowl that was still there long after the fish died, and I can remember all of this stuff just by thinking about the smell of ramen. So it's a very powerful sense because my mom would make it for me when I was sick. That was like, we didn't do chicken noodle soup, we would eat ramen. Um, and that is what I would say is something that I feel could be can be missing from this. And I think the writer has shown that they are good enough that they should be trying to experiment with some of that stuff. And I would like to see a try. Um, You invite your brothers and sister Anne to visit. They swarm into the rooms, loud and comforting. For a day, they provide enough distraction to forget the ring of keys, particularly the littlest key, which you may not touch. On the second day, however, your brothers fade into the nearby woods for hunting while your sister retires for a midnight nap. The house yawns open, massive. Great. It feels like like the cavernous stomach of some great monstrous beast, and you within its belly. You cannot sit still. The silence and emptiness are too great, so you fill the hour in exploration. Oh, wonderful. So cool. Look, I'm going to click through this really fast. Oh, this is awesome. I love it. I'm just going to go straight to the closet, though, because I have more games to play, you understand? Um, just know that I was going to say a lot of things like prose is very good. You insert the key and lock clicks. You swallow your uncertainty, then shove the door open and step inside. Blood. Exactly. What a great bang. I'm going to send this to my professor. This is excellent. So much blood. Drills and other implements is so saturated with it, the gouged and scarred wood is stained red. A chill shoots through your body. You don't want to know for what purpose such tools are used. Then you look up at the wall and learn. Fuck. 5 women are strung up on the walls, their bodies a testament to enduring pain and decay. Eh. Change that. Change that line. It's too abstract. It doesn't. Just describe them. Don't do the don't do that like abstraction because you're afraid to show them plainly, right? Like the story has done such a good job of using the physicalized elements, like the smell, the touch, like all of these things that I'm talking about. I promise, if you just describe them in a way that is their bodies are a testament to enduring pain and decay, I promise it will be way better, right? So if you end up watching this in the YouTube video, if you end up never seeing this, whatever, if you didn't write this and you're just looking for advice, this is the only line that I loved. 5 women are strung up on the walls. You could literally hit period and then not write anything after that. The worst line that I've read so far in the story, and I don't mean that as an insult, I'm just saying there's a lot of really good lines in the story, and the one bad one that I've read so far is their body's a testament to enduring pain and decay. Just don't do that. It never helps. Anyway, in shock, you let the key slip from your fingers. Beautiful. The blood drools from the woman. Awesome. Dark red, tracing their skin and congealing in a pool at their feet. Brutal, brutal. Good, good, good. You suck in a breath to scream and gag on the smell. You have to get out. Excellent, except for that. I loved the sudden red transition too, by the way. It's so funny. Like, I know that the fucking room is full of blood. I know that. And I'm still like, huh. Scooping up the key, now slick with blood. Beautiful. You stumble back into the passageway. You slam the closet door shut and lock it against the horrors that lie within, but the smell of rot permeates. Fear and revulsion pulse through your body, making you dizzy. What should you do now? Well, take a bite of pizza. Drink a swig of beer. Yeah. Let me just finish my pizza real fast. That way I don't have to keep doing this. This is the last slice. I'm actually very interested to see how this rendition of Bluebeard ends it. Because in the original, her brother's Saber. Oh, oh boy. You head down the passageway in the direction of the guest rooms, but as you pass by the windows, you notice a rider. Hope rushes through you. One of your brothers, perhaps? No. No, no, no. It's your husband, riding fast. He will be through the gate in mere moments. Terror floods your limbs. You don't have much time. You need to. I'm pretty sure she hides the truth. You glance down at the bloody key in your palm. You can't let him find out that you discovered a secret only death could follow. You rush to the nearest washroom and douse the key in water. The blood seems to cling to its surface. You scrub and scrub, but it won't come clean. Your husband is in the house. You can hear him calling for you. No matter... Just write you hear. You hear him calling for you. No matter what you do, the blood continues to stain the key's surface. He calls out again. You cannot delay any longer. You tuck the little key into a pocket and step out into the passage. You greet your husband with a forced smile, hoping to appear calm. You've returned early. He smiles in return, but his eyes are cold. My business ended earlier than expected, he says. Are you not pleased? Of course, you answer. It's a blessing to have you back so soon. Then you will not greet your husband with a kiss. You kiss his cheek. You stifle a shudder as you rise up on your toes and kiss his cheek, the bristles of his beard prickling your lips. When you step back, he seems to study you, eyes roving over your face. See, okay, real quick before I go on, this is kind of why I want some of the smell, and because one of the things I learned in writing is that once is a description of something once is an accident. A description of something twice is an intention, and a description of something 3 times is a theme. And that means you're working with a theme here. So get thinking about why you refer to his beard so much. I mean, I get it. Like, I mean, we know, right? But you can make it more powerful. And the writers who do refer to something 3 times will make it more powerful. They'll change the description a little bit, right? It's not just prickle. It's not just tickle. It's not just changing like the slight aspect of the verb. It's changing kind of the different things that it does, right? Where it scratches. I mean, you do that as well, but the emotion it evokes, what am I thinking of here? Again, the smell. Like, that's kind of why I brought up the smell earlier, because it seemed like we were moving toward a theme. Anyway, you shift uncomfortably under the weight of his gaze. The silence hangs in the space between you both. Your husband sighs and breaks the silence. Do you have the keys I gave you? Oh, yes. You answer, drawing out the ring of keys. They felt heavier now than when he first gave them to you, right? The heaviness of the keys is a lie that they're passing between each other, right? She's lying about having gone into the room, and he has lied about him being a fucking maniac. You try to keep your hand from trembling. Obviously, one is worse than the other. You give them to him. He takes the ring of keys and examines them. Where's the little key? That one that opens the little closet at the end of the hall. He sounds disappointed, almost sad. You can feel the heat of the little key hiding in your pocket. That's good. Is it not among the others? No, he stares at you, eyes like daggers above the tangle of his blue beard. Where is it? Heart pounding, you lie? I'm just trying to, like, make for time here. Well, your husband demands, his voice sharp. Where's the key? I don't know. You answer, trying to keep your voice light. Perhaps it fell off the ring? Do you think me a fool? No, never. You cannot keep from trembling. He balls his hands in a fist. Then bring me the key presently, or you will come to regret it. You pretend to go look for it. It must be around here somewhere, like by my brother's, for example. I'll go look for it. You touch the place where the little key is hidden within your pocket, terrified of what your husband will do when he sees it. But what else can you do? At the end of the hall, you see the door to the kitchen, which has another door leading to the yard. It would be so easy to walk through that door and escape this terrible house, wouldn't it? You attempt to leave. You stride through the kitchen door, trying to keep quiet. Every step feels like a step toward salvation. Wife, your husband shouts. Uh-oh. The sound of his voice startling you. What is taking so long? You walk faster than faster still. Before you know it, you are running. Where do you think you're going? But no matter how fast you are, your husband is faster. You glance back and see him, face livid, charging upon you like some great and terrible beast ready to tear you to pieces. You shouldn't have looked back. Terror eats its way through you, and you panic. Your skirts tangle between your legs, sending you sprawling. You hit the ground hard. He grabs you by the shoulders and smashes you against the floor. Shit. Your head cracks against... everything sparks brightly. Ooh, that's actually even somehow worse. Oh, what an excellent line. Oh, wow. What a great line that is. It's beautiful. He drags you down the passageway past the library to the strong room. Oh, the strong room, the study, drawing you closer and closer to the little closet. You try to gasp that door frames, tables, anything to slow his interminable progress, but you are too weak. He pulls you limply into the closet and slams the door shut behind him. Pain. Only pain. Pain and blood and death. He puts you with the others, just another hollow physicality pinned to the wall. Again, you're so close, and then it's like you're like on the last stroke of a painting, and then you're like, and let's dip it in the purple and go like this. You know, like it's so close. And you're just one more stroke, you know, and we got a great story. And then don't dip it in the purple. Just don't, just describe it. You know, describe the shackles on the wrists. Another adornment. Again, these things, no. You say where he put you, where you will never disobey him again. You let yourself fade, cling to existence. Time passes. You become cold and stiff and ashen, but you're not alone. The women drip, 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 and you drip with them. Every crimson drop that beats from the tips of their toes, your toes, ripples into a single black pool at your collective feet. All blood is one blood. That's great. Great line. Cling to existence. Time passes. Collectively, you grow tired of being ornaments upon a wall, tired of waiting for someone else to release you. One by one, you pull the nails from your flesh and climb down from your mounts. You stretch your many cold limbs and reach for each other. You stitch your broken bodies together, sewing your need for comfort into a... No. All is one blood. Many have become one. A single heart thrums to life with your chest pulsing with collective anger. Your palms tingle with their longing for revenge. Black red oozes between your bare toes as you stride across the room. The door is locked, but the room cannot continue. This is a testament, by the way, to how descriptive short sentences can be. It will not. When you break free, you know exactly upon whom you will call. Epilogue. Your husband seemed such a large man when you were alive, a giant. Now he is so small, so fragile. You break him easily, little pieces of him cracking into your collective fingers. His screams are delicious. You drink them up, all the women inside you savoring the flavor. And when you are done with him, well, the world is full of monstrous men, and you're ready to drink them. What's deserved? No, I'm okay with on playing again. I think I got the ending that I wanted. I'm pretty sure I was supposed to not lie. I think I was meant to walk toward the kitchen and then go back and tell him the truth. And then the brothers come and save her. But otherwise, it's great. Just a couple of changes to the prose, and I would really I like it a lot, and I will probably send that to Pinckney because he teaches Blue Blood or Bluebeard, not Blue Blood. He teaches Bluebeard in his writing classes, and that's very cool. He would love to see something like that. Okay, so how long have we been streaming for? 35 minutes. Cool. Then we can go on. Sure, let's see. That one guy, the guy who made Procrastination Simulator, is actually like hanging out in the Discord. So I kind of want to save it until I see him. I've never seen this person though. I've never seen them. So let's play. Weird and unsettling. I love the abstract effect of the art, text, and music. Oh, Andrea submitted Bluebeard. Thank you, Andrea. Excellent. Very cool. Hopefully she sees the video. Desiree. As it stood, it was a table of additions, much like... Okay, it's gonna be... I can already tell you right now. Way too loud. For me. I will gladly turn it up for you all, but it is... I'm not going to be able to focus on reading. Also, I'm very quiet. Why am I so quiet? Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I wish I would notice these things. Okay. Well, let's turn this up to like 7. And that should be a relatively decent balance between me and the normal audio. Okay. As it stood, it was a table of additions, much like certain schizophrenic drawings described as overstuffed, and if finished, it was only insofar as there was no way of adding anything more to it. The table, having become more and more of an accumulation, less and less a table, it was not intended for any specific purpose, or for anything one expects of a table. Graft. Heavy, cumbersome, it was virtually immovable. One didn't know how to handle it, mentally or physically. Its top surface, the useful part of the table, having been gradually reduced, was disappearing with so little relation to the clumsy framework that the thing did not strike one as a table, but as some freak piece of furniture. An unfamiliar instrument for which there was no purpose. So we're aliens. Got it. Graft. A dehumanized table. Nothing cozy about it. Nothing middle class. Nothing rustic. Nothing countrified. Not a kitchen table or a work table. What is it with the table thing? A table which lent itself into no function, self-protective, denying itself to service and communication alike. There was something stunned about it, something petrified. Perhaps it suggested a stalled engine. Oh, play full screen. Ooh, oopsie. How does one? I'm not sure how. When you will have made him a body without organs, then you will have delivered him from all his automatic reactions and restored him to his true freedom. It is crisscrossed with axes and thresholds with latitudes and longitudes. Traversed by gradients, making the transitions and the becomings. I think I need to like zoom in. I think that's the peen. Okay. Yeah, it totally was. The destinations of the subject developing along these particular vectors, nothing here is representative. Rather, it is all life and lived experience. Is this a person? familiar. Oh, okay. He's a philosopher. Got it. Yeah, it's kind of like a poem. It's hard for me to really comment on it. I found it interesting, but there's not much for me to say about things like that. I tend to not do well with overly vague prose. I tend not to do well with overly poetic prose. Um, I'm a big fan of grok. I'm a big fan of easy to grok. And while I got the impression that we were kind of examining the male form, we were critiquing the male form, maybe. What I don't understand is the table thing. I could not put that together. And I think that this serves as a quick reminder um, to those of us who are looking to create narrative or evoke feeling with narrative, is that just like games, narratives need a tutorial section, right? Act one of a story is the tutorial. It is kind of the almost like the aria in a oh my god, I forgot the fucking word. In an opera. It's like an aria in an opera where you're establishing certain themes, certain criteria that you're going to return to again and again and again. And you want your audience to understand that, right? You want your audience to understand that these are the things that you're working with. And I didn't get that sense because table is just too vague. And I understand that it's likely because you were just transcribing text from a philosopher, but you need to teach me how I'm meant to understand your narrative. And that, I believe, will make it a much better story. Um, anyway, I found it interesting. Don't get me wrong. I actually do think that was kind of a fun little, it got me to put my other headphone on. But that would be my ultimate bit of advice is just keep an eye out and maybe go back to the beginning, revisit that, and kind of reintroduce the narrative so that everybody is going to be on the same page as you when we get going, right? And if you don't want that, that's fine, but just also accept that people aren't going to be able to understand what the hell you're talking about or what you're going for. Anyway, gerrymander me, baby. The great country of Pansalusia is in dire need of what? Well, opinions are divided. Whatever it is, your own goal is clear. Seduce each of the electoral districts with luscious promises, gerrymander them, win the general elections, and become the president. So I get the sense that we're going to be doing some form of political narrative. The great... Oh, I already read that. Knickermark. Use all the personal info you have about each district to give desirable answers and build up trust. You have at least 70% trust at the end of the date and gerrymander away. Don't be afraid to lie or be inconsistent. You might think that there will be consequences, but there won't be any. Loves to open disco parties, doesn't like negative thinking, enjoys shopping, likes mountaineering, and is into UFOs. You meet with Knickermark at a small, unpopular park. She prefers her dates to be discreet, but not because she is shy. As you approach, you see her sitting on a bench, elegant as usual. She notices you, and a seemingly honest smile appears on her face. Look who's back. Why is it that we see each other only when your elections come? Oh, I'm just teasing you. We both know what we want, don't we? It can be very generous for a price. Come, sit, and let's get to it. I'm going to pick your brains apart. For a while, you sit together in silence. Knickermark catches a dried leaf flying in the wind and crushes it in her hand. Why? If money grew on trees, do you think the golden leaves would have more value? It would really uproot the world economy, wouldn't it? Now let's get to real questions. Do you believe maintaining a free market system with as little government regulation and intervention as possible is desirable? Enjoy shopping, so I'm assuming an unregulated market is exploited. I knew it. Yes. Keep sweet talking me and I'll actually start enjoying these meetings. Time for the third question. Well, there's only one question so far. I have yet to ask you the second one, though. Never mind. We're behind schedule. Imagine this. Our educational system is being targeted by an online harassment campaign. Some 11-year-old wrote a public post saying how her school sucks. What should we do? Nothing. It's her right. Let's ask a local ISP to limit her bandwidth. Oh, I need to. She doesn't like negative thinking, so we need to stop it. Great idea. That will give her a better lesson than any of our underpaid teachers could. Ha! You know, when I was driving here, I felt inspired by that experience. We are at the crossroads of the Pansalusia's destiny. There are no easy choices left. We must stand upright and be straight with each other. There is no going back. The road ahead is full of potholes, but together we can safely reach our destination. Blah, blah, blah. Are politicians' heads filled with slogans like this all the time, or do you come up with them on the spot? Speaking of potholes... Okay, so I'm a little confused because it just keeps saying that Nickermark is saying all of this. And clearly there are lines in there that I am saying. Do you support the legislation of marijuana? Good question. Let me consult what you enjoy. Disco parties. Doesn't like negative thinking. Enjoys shopping. Likes mountaineering. Okay. Government shouldn't penalize people for a harmless drug. God, I'm so good at this. I like the way you think. Nickermark thoughtfully gazes into the distance, and you thoughtfully gaze at Nickermark. You become a bit too lost in your thoughts and have to ask Nickermark to repeat your question. I said, do you believe that we should encourage immigration of skilled workers to our country? Is into UFOs. I knew it. Oh, I agree. The more the merrier, in many circumstances. The sun is setting and the empty park around you is slowly becoming darker and darker. Nickermark's eyes, however, shine brightly, staring deep into the park, into the empty place where your soul used to reside. Now come to the last question. Tell me, what do you think about the idea of free higher education? And that's the tune I like to hear. The day has passed and you answered all of Nickermark's questions. All of them correct, by the way, and I got 90%. Now comes the verdict. Honey, let me show you now what this government body can do. Nickermark was happy to let you manage her Jerry's the whole night. You can be... Jesus, fuck. You can be sure that when the election day comes, you'll have her vote. Okay, I think we're gonna do one more, and then that's probably enough. South Trunk is a huge fitness enthusiast, and he was adamant about meeting you at the gym. I've heard this song. Has this song been submitted to this jam before? You can't hear it. 1 second. I have 100% heard this song before. That is so funny. That is hilarious. I don't remember where I heard this though. Hey dude. You're finally here. I was so excited that I came half an hour earlier. So he likes a rich diet, secret diary, studies applied physics, loves kittens, all cats are beautiful, and never learned how to swim. Come. You're gonna spot me while we talk. We'll train our brain muscles and our muscles at the same time. South Trunk quickly starts exercising with great passion and energy. At first you try to keep pace with him, but it's impossible. So questions. I prepared for you a skull-based test. Skull-based test. The results will depend on the contents of your skull. Do you think we should keep developing and maintaining our nuclear arsenal? Maintains a rich diet. Has a secret diary, studies applied physics, loves kittens, and never learned how to swim. We need... I thought so. Sweet, dude. We'll hold hands and build a uranium enrichment facility together. He studies physics, so it will be a blast. South Trunk pauses his training and stands next to you, leaning nonchalantly against the wall. He's all sweaty and smelly and muscly. You suddenly feel like the temperature in the room is uncomfortably high. You know, my mom said to me once, oh, God, sorry, that instead of wisdom teeth, I have strength teeth. That was clever. She felt real dumb that day when I came from school and told her that wisdom teeth don't actually make people smart. The temperature has seemingly dropped a few degrees. Still, you can't stop staring at him. So you like watching Bad Boys? What? Is he reading your mind? I mean, what do you think about the governmental mass surveillance programs aimed at combating terrorism and other criminal activity? Oh. He has a secret diary, which means that he likes his privacy. Look at me go. Yeah, I just don't like the idea of somebody getting into my privates, if you know what I mean. South Trunk hops on a bike and resumes his training. Let's change gears a bit. How concerned are you about climate change? Never learned how to swim, so I should be worried about it. Together we can do it. Good thing it's not too late to avoid global societal collapse, right? You grab a dumbbell and rattle it a bit. Predictably, it doesn't make any sound. Meanwhile, South Trunk is busy pressing weights. You're starting to wonder if he's trying to impress you. Ooh, ooh. This is what freedom of the press looks like. God, dude, are you fucking serious? Really? You just made me read that out loud. Speaking of pressing matters, do you think our police and justice system need to be reformed? I don't know why these are starting to tickle me though. They're starting to make me laugh. It's just like this constant string of like, yeah, dude, like here's a normal thing that human beings say. Anyway. Rich diet, secret diary, loves kittens. Police and justice system. I don't know about this one. Shit. Because I don't, dude. Your gym session with South Trunk is ending, and you're sure that you're going to be sore for days. One final question. You'll find out whether an even more demanding training drill still awaits you tonight. So I've been thinking, huff, puff. Some Pansalusians are really concerned with this heavy stuff like growing rates of poverty or widening inequality. What do you think about it? How should we tackle such social issues? Count me in, dude. The training session is finished and you answered all of his questions. Now comes the verdict. I've got a new mandate for you. You and I are going to go on a mandate. South Trunk was happy to let you mander his cherries the whole night. You can be sure that when the election day comes, you'll have his vote. Okay. So I think I've gotten a pretty good sense of what this is and how it works. So I'm going to mute this. And we're going to talk about it a little bit. Relatively well written. I found all of it, you know, good. Again, not quite the thing that I can help with, but I can give you some direction. I can point you in a direction that suggests, you know, kind of what you should be looking at and reading, which you very likely already are because the prose was kind of accomplished in this direction anyway. So this isn't so much a narrative. Doesn't have narrative structure. Doesn't have scene structure. Much like the last one, which was not a narrative so much as it was a poem or a string of aphorisms with some interesting visuals. This is satire. Right? This is just pure satire. It's meant to kind of use the framework of a narrative to make a very strong and overt political point, right? And that's fine. I don't think that you know, there's room for that. Satire is great. I really like satire. But this is not a story. Um, it kind of tells a vague story through the overarching thing of like you need to convince all of the different districts to join you. But the problem I have with that is that's not how gerrymandering works. Gerrymandering doesn't work by politicians lying to constituents. Gerrymandering is like literally abuse. It's an abusive system. It's a system in which people they like change the way that districts are shaped so that it's easier for them to um, gain votes in during election time. It doesn't come from campaigning. That has nothing to do with gerrymandering. So it's not a particularly effective use of satire in that regard because it's not what gerrymandering is. You know what I mean? Like that would be like calling, um, what's a good term for it? I'm trying to think of like a term that could be easily misunderstood. But to reiterate, gerrymandering is where state and county districts, state and county representatives will literally go in and they'll redraw the districts within their counties so that they can always make sure that there's a minority and never a majority in any given district because the district voting is how that they gain majority through voting, right? And they can rig it in such a way that it is impossible for a candidate to win even if the candidate has a majority vote in any particular county or district, because they just say, well, these two houses, so you say for example there's a district that's made up of 12 houses, right? And they and six of them, or no, seven of them are blue and five of them are red. Yeah. And what they'll do is they'll divide the district, and I'm sure that you know this, by the way. This is more me explaining what gerrymandering is than it is me like educating you. Like, hey, how dare you use this incorrectly? I'll get to the creator, um, Leonard Lenz, Levy, Clancy, and Judge Floro. I will get to how I can help you in a moment. But what gerrymandering is that the seven and the five, they split the district in such a way that the seven is broken up into two sets of 3.5. So like the 3.5 will go to another district in which the red has the majority, and 3.5 will also stay in the same district where the red now has the 5 majority, right? And that is gerrymandering. And it's very dangerous and it's very bad. It's very bad for democracy. And so I really liked the overall, just kind of the fun nature of it. I thought it was really funny to go through the narrative and be confronted with these different political ideologies, these different political questions, these different political issues, right? And I liked that as the role playing as a politician, I needed to lie. And I had no interest whatsoever in telling any form of truth or even coming to some form of truth. The only thing that mattered was getting votes, right? And so I guess in that sense, it could be a form of gerrymandering, but not really. The thing that I am struggling with is that I'm not really struggling, honestly. It's just not a story. That's all. It's just not a story. It's an interesting word game, but it's not a story. And that's kind of it. If you wanted to add some narrative structure to it, if you wanted to add some scene structure to it, right, some stakes, but there are no stakes. It's just lie your ass off until you get through the levels, right? Read the words and then click the appropriate answer. And while fun, a fun game and a very interesting mind exercise, not a story. Does that make sense? We can always talk about that. You're welcome to message me. You're welcome to reach out to me on Twitter or whatever. You're welcome to message me in the Discord. I don't always respond, but you can keep messaging me and eventually I will respond. And we can talk about that further, but that's kind of it. I think we have time for one more. If I go relatively, well, not fast, but okay, we're definitely not going to do Rinzai's because I know that game already. So this got second place in most compelling narrative. Okay, cool. Let's give it a shot. Decide the fate of the last employee on Mars. Well, you know what I'm going to go to straight after I read that. That's right, Twitch viewers. I'm going to go straight to Ray Bradbury. Now, who's Ray Bradbury, you wonder? He's an excellent science fiction writer, and you should all go read him. And I'm talking like immediately. Begin. I like this so far. I really like. Is this Twine? Because I really like this. He was floating in the void when he began to feel force pulling him out of the figurative into the literal existence. The steady humming of the station's lights made for an excellent alarm clock as they went on right before sunrise. Yeah, look out of porthole. Outside, the sun was just starting to rise. Long shadows became shorter. Get out of bed and make coffee. He got up from his bed and turned on the coffee machine in the station's kitchen area. First thing every morning besides coffee making was checking any new reports. So he went through a few new ones. Excuse me. The plant tests as well as the new cardio plan were the only things he had received today. Read reports. Reading through the test procedure, one of the displays at his desk lit up in warning red: oxygen generator, critical failure, blah, 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 blah. Fixed generator. He hadn't seen this type of failure before, so on his way to the generator, he got a manual and a toolbox. Arriving at the incident location, he noticed a burn smell in the air. Clean oxygen supply valves. Quickly, he closed the oxygen supply valves and unscrewed the lid, covering the unit's internals. There was a black charred cylinder entangled in the circuit's wires. Cut power to unit and remove cylinder. He cut the power to the unit, unplugged the wires, and removed the cylinder with tongs. After cleaning the inside, he replaced the wires with new double-coated ones and ran some routine checks on the generator. So he took a tour. Other units seemed to be working as expected. Back to desk. Back at the desk, he removed the burned plastic from the now cooled-off cylinder and stored it in an airtight containment capsule. Get another coffee. Before committing to any plant tests, he went back to the kitchen area and poured himself another mug of coffee with 1 piece of sugar and milk. I think, like, 1 piece of sugar and milk, that's a good opportunity to broaden the vernacular of the story, right? A capsule, a ration. Words like these can really, because the story that I'm reading, it feels like you're trying to sell me on this idea that he's like this diligent like science study man, right? And those are you typically want to replace common words like peace with more piecemeal words, with more interesting words that help world build, right? And I've gone over it a couple of times, like went back to the kitchen area. You could replace that with something else. Kitchen doesn't have to be, this guy's on a mission. And if there's one thing I learned working for the military, back when I worked for the military many years ago, it's that people who consider themselves to be on missions love their acronyms. They love them. They speak in acronyms. Like, yeah, we got to pick up the Lidl by the box, and then we're going to run that down to SATCOM. Right? And you don't know what that means, but you don't need to know what that means. Because I know what it means, and I'm the character in the story. So if you need to pick up the Lidl by the box and take it down to SATCOM, it's just a pretty effective way of selling a story, right? Like, you can piece enough together to know, okay, he's doing something important, and he knows what it is. Anyway, do cardio. With the plant test finally done, he could do his daily cardio followed by dinner. Before going to bed, he took another look at the cylinder. In the orange light of the sunset, he could make out small crevices flowing along its main axis. Stay up late. At night, the station had the atmosphere of something unknown. Not scary, but certainly and oddly unfamiliar. I was thinking about the sentence, trying to rewrite it in my mind. His thoughts got interrupted by a rumble in the distance. Looking through the porthole above his sleeping chamber, he witnessed one of the mountains in the distance changing shape. A giant boulder broke off, shattering midair and crashing into the dry ground, catapulting red dust meters high into the air. I mean, meters. A fucking mountain. I think it's going to be a little bit more than meters. And then it went 12 feet in the air. You could say like hundreds of meters. Study cylinder. He couldn't make out what might have caused it, so he went to study the cylinder until his morning routine began. That's it? He's not like calling anyone? That a mountain just exploded? When the sun rose, the debris had finally settled, and he took another look at the mountain. Something large and shiny had been uncovered. See, you're missing opportunities to world build. Like, that's huge. That's so unbelievably huge. So huge. And, I mean, maybe he can't call anyone, and that's fine. But we need to know that. We need to know that he can't call anyone. Because right now, the character just seems way too calm. That he's just encountered some form of alien life. Or that Mars is having an absolutely catastrophic event taking place on the surface, right? Like, I know that this book gets shit on a lot now because it was like such an indie darling for such a long time, but go read The Martian. Don't watch the movie. Read the book by Andy Weir. There are not many writers who are better at selling you on a critical failure being life or death, right? Like, the way that he describes the smallest thing, like a tear in the fabric of the science-y fabric of the tent that they are in on Mars, the implications of this thing occurring are so fucking nuts that like you can't help but breathe faster while you're reading it because it's so intense. It's like, holy fuck. If there's a hole in this, that means that this might not work. That could mean that this will explode. That could mean, right? And the guy, like the main character, actually stays relatively calm under the pressure of all of these insanely horrible things that are taking place. But like, the stakes are there, right? And like, I didn't feel the stakes of the mountain exploding or the alien throwing a piece of the mountain and then it explodes, right? I didn't feel the stakes of that. It was kind of like, he was looking out the window and he was like, what the fuck is that? Crazy. Anyway, and then he just went back to what he was doing. Planned trip to mountain. For the next days, he planned a trip with the Mars buggy to the mountain. He had more than enough supplies to do multiple trips. Just describe them. Because again, how is he getting there? He's got his buggy, but like, can we see like a trailer on it? Can we see like what are the supplies? Is there a sled that it's dragging? You know, what does the buggy look like? Is the buggy kind of big? Is it very small? Does it only sit one person? Does it sit two people? If it sits two people, then you got an opportunity for him to think about somebody who used to be there with him, right? Now you get an opportunity to display loneliness. Now you get an opportunity to, you know what I mean? Whenever he took a ride with the Mars buggy, he listened to Huey Lewis and the news. On his way, he thought about Earth. Despite the lack of flora and fauna other than human, Mars had become an odd twin for Mark. It had just as beautiful sunrises and sunsets as Earth, if not even better. Describe them. Coming closer to the mountain, the shiny alien thing seemed to be some sort of barrier or wall. It was roughly double the height of the Mars buggy, so about 6 to 7 meters tall. That's weird. That sounds so weird. So about. That's like so colloquial. He stayed inside the buggy and drove around the mountain. The other sides had not been affected by the rumble, but the mountain was strangely shaped. The back had a large recess, almost like a back entrance. Why is it a back entrance? A front entrance and a back entrance look relatively similar, do they not? Park buggy. He parked the buggy several meters away. I mean, like, the back entrance of a Walmart looks very different from the front entrance. Scan mountain. He scanned the mountain's internal structures to rule out another fall of rocks. The barrier was plastered with sharp crevices, most horizontal and vertical, some angled at 45 degrees, forming a net of abstract shapes. Staring at this alien map, he noticed a recession that looked like it could hold the cylinder. Insert the cylinder. Sure enough, it fit perfectly with a click sound. With a loud, high-pitched hiss, the alien map was bisected by darkness. Two halves moved to the sides, revealing a gloomy corridor that split into 3 further corridors. Enter foyer. He entered the foyer and took a look around. Take the left corridor. This way, he would always find his way back out. Oh, he's got a thing to the buggy. With nothing but a flashlight, he entered the corridor to his left. At each turn, he laid down a small beacon of light. Now, I'm expecting this lifeline to be important. Like, if you're going to describe it, you got to make it important, right? Monitors covered most of the corridor, some smashed, others stand by. Go further. Accompanied by the rope's constant whirring, okay, good, he made his way deeper into the structure until the corridor led to a large room. High ceilings merged into a round object at the center of it. This seemed... God damn it, I'm so sorry. To be a control unit, explore room. Whenever I talk a lot, I've noticed this about myself. If I talk a lot, like, and relatively quickly, when I start to run out of gas, I start yawning a lot. I don't know why that is. The flashlight's cone slowly went past chairs and keyboards, revealing large monitors not so different from those in his station. Perhaps this was not alien after all. Sit down at the alien monitor. So he sat down at one of the monitors. Wipe off control panel. He wiped the red dust. When... You could probably do, like, wipe the red dust off the control panel in the selection, right? That way we don't have to keep, like, triple reading, or double reading, not triple. Liftoff procedure initiated. A female computer voice filled the room and reverberated through the corridors. Liftoff procedure, he thought. Liftoff procedure, he said out loud. Run back to the Mars buggy. Stumbling down the corridors, a retractable rope whirring in reverse, he made his way back to the front of the structure. All personnel execute. Blah, blah, blah. He ran past the last beacon light when he saw the outside slowly receding as the giant door started to close. This is one of those phrases. I've talked about this a lot over the year and a little bit and some change. Actually, it'll be in October. It'll be 2 years since I've started streaming about game narrative. 1 year since I've done Vandayaha. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that receding as the giant doors started to close. So started to is one of those phrases that you can just Control F in your text and delete all of them. Just delete them all. When he saw the outside slowly receding as the giant doors closed, means the same thing. It changes the image literally not at all, but it's a tick. It's a thing we do. I do it too. I think every writer kind of has a tick that they jam them in, and now I can't unsee them, right? So, for example, my professor's was always turned to, right? So a character would say, Mark, what are you doing? And then the next line is, Mark turned to face her. I'm pooping, right? And Mark says, he turned to say, I'm pooping. And don't do it. You just do it. Mark said, I'm pooping. Or Mark looked at her and said, I'm pooping. And that's how you more clearly indicate, with fewer words and less repetitive language, because turn to, started to, began to, went to, they are all just very weak. And they don't give a sense of, they lose musculature. Your sentences lose muscles, right? So he saw the outside slowly receding as the giant doors closed. That means that it's happening, and we can see it, right? We can see the outside receding as the giant doors are closing. But if they started to close, that means that, I'm going to try and put my hand in the perfect place. That means that the door is here. So it's not receding, because it's the receding is here because we got stakes now. Pulling the rope inside. With one last effort, he pulled himself on the rope and slid across the dusty floor. The sun was blinding as he slid past the two doors. We know it was blinding him because it couldn't be blinding anything else. So you can just say the sun was blinding because who else would it blind? He found himself covered in red dust. He was covered in red dust. He found himself. These are all. It's way too complicated. The alien map closing shut behind him. But the ship stood still. There was nothing but his own breath until he heard hissing from afar. His own station was surrounded by clouds of red debris. Was engulfed in a cloud of red debris or something. Go to station. He took the cylinder, got in the Mars buggy. Oh, he got the cylinder out? And drove as quickly as the vehicle would let him. Drove as quickly as he could, as quickly as the thing would go. The station was already starting to float, debris being kicked around. There was no way he could make the jump towards the entrance of the station. Slingshot to the station. Slingshot. He put the Mars buggy into autopilot mode and attached to the end of the retractable rope to his warning pistol. Aimed for the entrance of the station. Holding onto the open door of the buggy, he aimed for the outer shell near the entrance of the station. Pow, flunk. No. He had hit just below one of the portholes. He made sure the cylinder was with him and turned on the retraction motor. See, don't do pow flunk because that's like, hey, Wrath of Wood. Pow flunk is their onomatopoeias, and what they mean is kind of like a comic book quick zoom in which we watch the grappling hook hit the destination, and that's not what the character sees. And this is a ridiculously common misunderstanding about fiction, is that we are in a third-person narrative. The narrative can kind of zoom out, can kind of move the camera around, can kind of do some of that stuff, right? And that's what differentiates it from first-person fiction. However, what you should be aiming to do, as much as you can, is describe the world from the perspective of the main character, the perspective character, even when you are in third-person perspective, which we are in this particular game, right? And so to have the pow and the flunk, it's very weak. And what you could do instead is describe the not the ricochet. What the hell? What's the word I'm thinking of? The kickback of the gun, and watch as the claws or whatever the fuck it is of the grappling hook shoot out, and the thing instantly fly away, right? And it gets so far away that you can't even see the end, but you can hear the cable kind of warbling because it's right. And by hearing the cable warble, we can see exactly what Pow Flunk is trying to do, but it's not Pow Flunk, right? It's just a much stronger image of the cable shooting off towards its destination, and we hear the warble, and then the cable becomes taut, right? Sink, it becomes taut. And that's what flunk means. And now we know that because the cable is taut, he is secure, but he can't see the end, which means we can't see the end, which means that the stakes have been raised, right? And that's the kind of perspective shift that you need to keep in mind when you're writing fiction, because in comic books, they do this all the time, and it works for comic books because you're not just reading the comic book for the story, you're reading a comic book to also examine the pretty art, right? The comic books get to do a lot of things that normal fiction doesn't get to do because it's more than one medium. So keep that in mind, is all I'm really trying to say. Send rope. The whirring started and soon became a tortured groaning as his feet slowly left the Mars buggy's roof. If all went well now, he'd be at the station in about 1 minute. If not, he'd fall and die here. It's very matter of fact. The minutes seemed to stretch out further and further as the motor got slower. There was just 10 meters left to reach the station and 50 meters to reach the ground. Come on. The literal first dialogue of the entire story. He said to himself. On the last meters, the rope stopped groaning. Climb the rope. He had to climb. Now groaning himself. That's pretty good. He made it to the entrance, hands clenching onto the station's outer shell. When he got inside, he ripped his helmet off and gasped for air. Look out of the porthole. I am a little bit confused as to where we are right now. In terms, I know we're at the station, which is where he was working earlier, but the thing that I am struggling with is why did he have to use a grappling hook when the spaceship that he had accidentally started to fly off into space is going up? Because that gave me the impression that his station was also on the platform and that he had shot up to get on the platform. Like, but wait, now you're going to space. Look out of the porthole. Taking a look outside of the porthole, he spotted the Mars buggy far in the distance. No more than a speck of dust riding towards the sunset. It slowly faded away as the station made its way through Mars' crowd. Oh, okay, so we are going up. Okay, cool. Nah, good to know. I'm glad that my internal image was correct. He had liked the Mars buggy. It had been his trusty companion for this mission. That's nice. If this even was his mission still. Well, surely not. Are we on a roof or something? So this was like it's like the last dude on Mars. And he was working in I am imagining some kind of space station on Mars, right? It's like a surface station with, just imagine, the very standard Mars dome buildings, and they're silver. That's kind of the impression that I got, was that it was just like one of those, it's very like The Martian by Andy Weir. Mars, and he walks out of his space station or his Mars bunker or whatever, and to go investigate something that happened earlier in the story. So he gets into his Mars buggy, which is parked in the driveway or whatever. He gets in his Mars buggy, drives up to where the shit happened, goes inside. He walks around inside the thing, sticks the key in the ignition on accident, sticks the key in the ignition, turns it, and then the spaceship, which is underneath the surface of Mars, begins to launch into the atmosphere, right? And when it's beginning to launch, he's like, fuck. So he runs out of the space station. What in the world? Was that my shadow that made that? He runs out of the space station, sprints down, jumps on his buggy, tries to drive it back to his house, and sees that his house is also on the space station, or also on the giant spaceship underneath Mars' surface. So the space station, or the Mars spaceship is flying into the atmosphere. He, in a desperate attempt to get back to his space station, shoots his grappling hook, rides up onto it, lands, gets inside, and now we're here. I find it quite funny that I had 3 options and I took the one that advanced the story immediately. But anyway, I mean, maybe all 3 of them did. Who knows? He had liked the Mars buggy. Okay. He sat down at his desk, autopilot enabled, all systems stable. The monitor red and soothing light blue, and he sighed, relaxing himself into the back of his seat. A message light pinged in bright orange yellow. Upon opening, he found a UNST. Okay. Addressed to personnel. Blah. We've received a distress signal from ship. Blah. Begin execution of procedure. Blah. Perhaps this had been his mission after all. Well, I don't understand that ending. It was a twist ending, but there was no anagnorisis. So it didn't really recontextualize the narrative for me. If there was supposed to be some surprise that like I didn't get it. And I don't particularly think that was my fault. I think that is just like there's not enough foreshadowing. Like we just actually don't know. First of all, we don't even know what that ending means. Sounds like a Looney Tunes episode. A little bit, yeah. It's a little bit Looney Tunesy in terms of it's just kind of like a gotcha, like a gotcha. Isn't that a clever way to end it? Not really. I think that it could be very clever, but it requires a lot of work to to kind of bolster the concept of being tricked into launching a spaceship into space by the UNST. And a lot of this comes from, I think, in my opinion, a severe lack of world building, right? Like, we don't know why he's there. We don't know what he does. We don't know who else is in the world. We don't know why he's alone. We don't know who he's working for. We don't know why that we don't know what that cylinder is. We don't even get a real description of it, really. There's just a lot of missed opportunities for world building. And while I was entertained at some points in the story, and I thought that some of the physical stuff was quite good, um, I do think that there's some work that needs to be done about the overall structure and the character, right? Like, I don't know nothing about him. The part where the house gets stuck on a big spaceship happened to Porky Pig, I swear. It could, it very well could, yeah. That I wouldn't be super surprised. It sounds like something that would happen in a Looney Tunes episode, but it's not even some. That's not even really a bother for me. Like, I don't mind if it's a giant spaceship and his space station gets stuck on it. I actually think that could be really fucking cool. But the problem is that there's just nothing in the narrative to really prepare you for these things, and the payoff for them isn't there, right? Like, we don't get to, we're not playing a game, right? And again, I've said this 1,000 times, but whether you're right, whether you're making God of War or you're writing a short story, you're playing a game. You're playing a game with your audience and you're writing a short story. You're giving them information that they can latch onto, that they can try and make sense of, that they can try to, but it needs to be overt. Like, and it doesn't need to be like ridiculous, you know, like he looked at a picture of his wife and thought exactly about how he was going to kiss her when he got back because he is lonely. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need that. You don't need that, but you need to give us objects. You need to give us visuals. You need to give us senses, sensory details that we can think about and chew on while we're reading the story, and then we can go, oh, that's right, he did love oranges. No wonder the oranges were in the story. Oh my god, no wonder the oranges were in the story. He used the oranges to stop the engine. You know, like, that's the, I mean, it's a very obvious example, but that's the kind of thing that helps. It helps with the overall feel of a story. Do the choices matter? No, not at all. Not that I'm aware of. I mean, like, there was one like actual choice, and it was, do you want to go left, straight, or right? And I chose left, and then I put the key in the thing, and the ship was launching away. And I don't know what happens in the middle or the right because I didn't go that way. But it didn't seem like it really mattered. It was kind of like all roads lead to Rome. Like extra details and stuff, but not particularly like a meaningful decision. But also it's because there's just an overall lack of conflict. Like, we don't, when you have a narrative with one character, it means you have a man versus nature narrative. It has to be, because you need conflict. It's inescapable. You have to have it. So if you have a narrative with conflict and there's only one person, there's only one character, that means that you have to be having conflict with nature, which there is conflict with nature in this. I will admit that. Like, there is, you know, there is a spaceship. The mountain does seem to wake up. I don't know exactly how these things work. I don't really know how to piece them together, but there is a man versus nature vibe in the story. The problem is that the protagonist is so milquetoast that it doesn't matter, right? Like, I don't know what his opinion is on literally anything. I don't know if he likes his job. I don't know if he hates his job. I don't know I don't know what he does. I don't know, you know? Maybe they do matter, but you need to see the effects of the choices in games. You definitely, right. Yeah, you definitely need to see the effects of the choices. And that's usually done by adding and taking away currencies, right? Like, you and I use currency in the loosest of sense in terms of like, let's say there's a character and you let them die so that you can go to the next mission, right? Well, you lose currency later in the game because you needed them in order to talk to the governor of a town. And you have exactly 0 friend currency, right? You have exactly precisely 0 that friend currency. You were dead broke on that friend. And that's how you can kind of see the consequences. But I think the problem with some of this in general is that it's like it's very hard to show what the consequences are without having the person go back and replay it again to see what the consequences are, and I hate that. I hate that about games. Like one of my absolute least favorite questions that people ask me when I sit down to play their games is, "Will you go back and play it again so you can see how it was different the other time?" I don't want to, ever. Like literally never do I want to do that. Like when I've beaten their game, I'm like, no. I do it because people ask me to, but I do not want to. Currency could be any points of or resource you need. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean by currency. It's an even more generalized form of resource, you know, because all video games are, or all games in general is an expenditure of resources. It's a strategic expenditure of resources tied to interesting decisions, right? In Magic, you have mana. You tap the mana, you play your creature. Do you sacrifice your creature in order to kill their creature, or do you try and save it to hopefully hurt them more? In chess, do I sacrifice my pawns so that I can get better positioning with my horse or with my knight? You know, it's in Call of Duty, do I shoot my gun here? Of course you do, but you know what I mean. Like I shoot my gun and then the bullet ticker goes down, and then I have less resources. I have fewer resources to do this. And then for whatever reason, dialogue doesn't have any resources tied to it, and fuck dialogue, and it's just stapled into games. Now, very rarely do I check out multiple endings. It's just not worth it. That's the problem. Like imagine if, for example, you went into a theater and you sat down to watch, I don't know, the new Marvel movie, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You sat down to watch the new Marvel movie, and you're sitting there and you're watching, and then at precisely the moment before they're about to go fight the big baddie, your phone buzzes and you look down and it says, do you want to kill the big baddie or do you want to kill your best friend? And you're like, or do you want Captain America to kill the big baddie or do you want him to kill your best friend? And you're like, kill his best friend. And then it goes, da-da-da-da, congratulations, you've chosen kill his best friend. And then he goes and kills his best friend, and it's a super shitty and weak ending, and he's just like, stab, stab, stab. Oh no, now I gotta go to prison. And then he goes to prison. And then it's like, would you like to sit through the entire fucking movie again and watch the ending? And choose the other one? It's like, absolutely not do I want to do that. Not a fucking chance. And that's a 2-hour movie. What if Marvel movies had multiple endings? It'd be a nightmare. It would be truly hell. It would be fucking hell. I mean, I know that they have like the post-credits ending and versions. Jesus. No. That sounds awful. Seriously, it's like, it's the worst. Like I really, really, really appreciate when a game audience votes on an ending. Ugh. Could you imagine if audiences just voted on endings in every film? You know how awful that would be? Anyway, we're getting sidetracked. The point that I'm trying to make here is that it does sound awful. Is that I don't want there to be an ending unless the story can handle there being a second ending. I want there to be one ending unless there's literally like this is a problem that I've actually brought up on another stream that I did about endings and beginnings. You can't really have a second ending in a game unless you have two beginnings. Because the beginning informs the ending. When you start a story, when I start watching a movie, I am like roundabouts 80 to 90% sure how this movie's going to end based on the first 15 to 20 minutes of the movie. Not even that, maybe less, 10. Maybe the first 10 minutes, the inciting incident is very likely going to inform me how this film is going to end. It doesn't mean that I enjoy it less. I enjoy every movie that I watch for the most part, except for the bad ones. But I know how most movies are going to end. And it's because of the way that the beginning is set up. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Do you understand? That's a good thing. Because a good story, a good ending will reflect its beginning. And so when you're reading through, watching through, playing through a story, for some reason, games are the only ones that think that this is important, is to have a multiple ending thing in which you get to the ending and then it's, do you want to play the one that has been do you want to play through the ending that has been set up throughout the entire fucking narrative, or do you want to play through the two that we made up at the very end of the development process so that we could have multiple endings? And they're garbage. They're very poorly written. They don't speak to the themes of the narrative. They don't tie to the beginning. They don't work with the character. They don't, nothing, right? And for me, it's like, whatever one I got to is my ending, and I don't care if it's bad. I'd rather have a bad ending that I got to once than play through all three mediocre endings and to, whatever, to experience the totality of the narrative. It's not going to surprise me, is what I'm trying to say. Like, it doesn't matter. All I want is to see either a bad ending once or the ending that was set up by the rest of the narrative once. And I will make decisions in order to get the good ending in the game. Multiple endings are weird, dude. I did it once and still think I messed it up. It's fucking impossible. It's not that you messed it up. It's that it's not possible. Like, you can't have multiple endings in a narrative. You can't. It doesn't work. Like, it's like the one thing that I genuinely just kind of don't think can work in like a prescribed narrative. A narrative which is pre-written cannot have multiple endings. Now, for example, a game like RimWorld, and I go to RimWorld all the time, a game like RimWorld can have multiple endings. Why? Because the game isn't written. It's a system-based game that has outcomes based on nonsensical information that the computer is just spitting out, right? Like, the computer is accidentally telling a story to you. It has no idea what it's doing. It's taking in information, running it through an algorithm, and spitting it back out. And that's it. And it has no idea. And it's all through the apophenia of the player that makes sense of the narrative, right? And that's when a narrative can have multiple endings, because I could play a narrative in RimWorld in which my character dies in 10 minutes. I could go back and reload my save, fix that problem so that she doesn't die after 10 minutes, and then continue on with my RimWorld narrative for the next 60 hours. I mean, that original death, that original ending to the narrative is actually just a blip in her grander narrative, right? But that's all my apophenia. And that's where I actually think the video game narrative is the strongest, is in apophenia-based narrative, is in system-based narrative. Anyway, or do the bonkers ending where you find out it was all a simulation controlled by a dog. Ugh. Yeah. See, that's a twist. That is not anagnoresis. And anagnoresis is vastly stronger than a twist. Now, a simulation controlled by a dog could actually be a very good ending if it is an anagnoresis, if it is written correctly. If it is written in such a way that it is... Anagnoresis is a sense of inevitability, right? It is a sense of, oh God, no, please don't be the case. Please, please, no. No, 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 no. Oh God, I was right. The dogs do control the universe. Fuck, no. That's anagnoresis. And that's when you're approaching a sense of sublimity in narrative storytelling, where the audience both simultaneously knows what's going to happen and doesn't want it to happen. You're like, God, no, my heart, I can't take it. Yeah. So anyway, that was my tirade for the week. It's I don't this multiple ending stuff doesn't actually apply to you, Leonard. I'm sorry. The multiple ending thing is just that was just my I get heated about a very few things. One of them being that multiple endings are a good thing in narratives because I very much disagree. And when people ask me to play through the game 4 times, it's like, nope. Take the reaction you got. That's the reaction you got to that ending, and that's it. And going back and telling me to play it again is not going to get you a better reaction. It's actually going to get you a worse reaction because I just clicked through it because I'm not going to fucking read it again. And I can't experience the narrative for the first time again. Right? So the best you could ever get out of an audience who's going to go back and play it again is go, huh, interesting. That's it. That's the literal best case scenario for somebody to go back and play your ending again. So just figure out how to make it so that all 3 endings of whatever game you're making could be as good as the one that you had originally written. If you can figure that out, then I'm going to be like, okay, now we're on to something. But there is just no way. Like, show me one example in the history of mankind in which the multiple ending game didn't have one ending and then like 2 other shitty ones that were kind of stapled on. You know? Anyway, we can talk about something else now. Let me check my phone real quick. My wife is hilarious. She doesn't mean to be ever, and she's always super funny. She, she says the most insane shit sometimes on accident. More games? Yeah, probably. I think we could probably get through one more, but I would really, really like for it to not be one with intense amounts of reading. I guess we could try Harm Inspection again. It didn't work the first time. I'm not playing Darmanorum Raider. I did MRI Simulator. I did Gerrymander Me Baby. I guess we could try the... I don't want to do Pick Me Up unless Toaster Shooter is here, and he's not, so... Hopefully this is short. Visual novel. I hate the word novel at this particular time. I don't think it is going to be particularly long based on the description I'm reading. Run game. Ahmad Manga. Procrastination Simulator. You'll do it tomorrow. One thing I want to start with is developers, change your titles. Fix your titles. Okay? Procrastination Simulator. I know that there is a cultural element to the simulator word, right? There's a kind of an online gamer element to Goat Simulator, Goose Simulator, Depression Simulator, Depression Quest. Well, Depression Quest is kind of something else, but there is a lot of like simulator to mean something more than simulator, right? Some of the people might call it a meme or whatever. But I gotta say, it's a joke title, exactly. And a joke title will always, 100% of the time, make me take your story less seriously. 100% of the time. I will always, always, always think that your story is meant to be more funny than it is to be moving or evocative. And I know that most of you don't think that way. This looks cute. It does look cute. But I get the sense that... Are we ever... Okay. Procrastinating now. Do that later. Okay, how does one select options? What? I don't know what I'm pressing to actually go forward. Do that later. Okay, I'm gonna actually just refresh this because it's gonna go all the way through. Did it say that? Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. That was just my bad. Also, it's kind of strange controls. Alt or Z confirm, Control X cancel. Okay, we're gonna go with Z and X, up and down arrows. Okay. My bad. Those are default, okay. I also think that it just takes a minute to load. I'm imagining that there's quite a few art assets in this because I think a lot of this is made like piecemeal. Okay. Do that. For Protective Day. Am I hallucinating? Am I on drugs? I'm so confused. Do that later. Okay, let's just let this ride. I think I died. I think I died 10 minutes ago. I think I'm a ghost. I feel like I'm going crazy. Procrastinating now? Maybe it's because I'm making it full screen? But nothing happens from here. Nothing at all occurs. Am I pressing the wrong button? I think I'm pressing the wrong button. Oh, thank God. Oh, okay. You're an aspiring game developer. Yeah, yeah, okay. Oh, should I not have put it in full screen? Okay, I can't play it in full screen. Sorry. I'm gonna just zoom in. You've learned how to make games by following tutorials, but you haven't finished any project yet. You'll change that today. Make the game. Yes, make the game. You can. You checked your old project development. You realize your code is terrible. Variable names are bad. Functions are jumbled. No code comments. Text is just too hard to read. Sorry. It's just, for me, it's too hard to read. How does this code work? Only God knows. You looked at the code and almost gave up. You resolved to trace the code. You decided to trace the code carefully. You spent a full hour tracing the code. You couldn't believe reading 2 weeks old code was this difficult. You decided to comment your codes next time. Yeah, starting tomorrow. You finally resumed work on the game. For an hour, you worked smoothly, but you couldn't help feeling you're making mistakes. You ignored that feeling while you're coding. You finished the segment you were working on. You tried to run the game, but some error is preventing compiling. This is the first time you will get this error number, but you remembered that you saw a tutorial about it somewhere. Google the error message. That's what I would do. You Googled the error you encountered. You found info on the error's causes and the troubleshooting methods. You learned how to solve the current issue in the game. Since the browser is already open, make the game. As you close the tabs in browser, you noticed an ad. Free game dev ebook guide for your favorite game engine. Offer ends today. No, make the game. You already wasted so much time, you decided to go back to your work. These free ebooks are often terrible anyway. Your ad blocker doesn't seem to work properly lately. You decided to resume work on project. You spent a few minutes to remember your work on it earlier today. Now you're ready to code again. As you work on the game, your game code, you needed assets you don't have. If you search online, it might take you forever. Using placeholders will be the fastest solution. Use placeholders. You decided to avoid making assets until you finish the game. You heard it's a good practice. Different assets will be needed as the game's mechanics develop. You'll have the time to make and find assets after making a fun level. What's hard to read about it? It's just the text is just hard for me to read. It's becoming more comfortable, but it also looks a little bit different in the like actual recording window than it does on my particular monitor. But like on the way that I have the monitor set up, it's very thin, and it's kind of hard to differentiate certain letters. That's been kind of difficult for me to make sense of and to grok, and like I think maybe thickening it a little bit might help, or just because like this W, for example, there's literally 1 pixel that indicates it's a W. 1 pixel, and it could just be a lot clearer, right? Because when you're reading quickly, it can be pretty easy to read over stuff like that. You worked on the game system, but it is getting better, I will say. After a while, you found a bug. The system doesn't give any error. You also don't know which part of the code is wrong. Ask online. You put up the question on Stack Exchange. You wait for an answer. You're using a popular engine. The answers usually come quickly. You tried at the problem in the meantime. You follow the flow of code. You test and debug until you almost questioned your life choices. And just change that. Just change that line. It's not a very good line. I don't mean that to be mean. It's just not. Questioning your life choices is just it's a cliche. It's a Twitter thing. You know, it's like everybody questions their life choices every single fucking second of every single day, apparently, on social media. It's like, I took a shit and questioned my life choices. It's like, did you? Or did you say I questioned my life choices because you read that on Twitter today? You remember to check the answer to your question you asked. You got a lot of generic advice. One user even scolded you for not using the programming patterns. You find more than one potential solution. Trying them all will take the whole night. It's already late. You can try the most probable solution or sleep for the day by the solutions. You dedicate the night to finding a solution that works for you. The community provided many answers. You don't know where to start. You went for the most upvoted answers first. Question mark or exclamation point. You solve the problem after only a few attempts. You test the game for the last time today, then prepare to sleep. Prepare to sleep. It's like, I am preparing to sleep. Just take your clothes off, right? Like if you take your clothes off, you know that you're going to sleep. So you don't need to prepare to sleep. It's kind of like what I was talking about earlier with turn to and started to. It's like, and then he started to get ready to go to bed. It's like, you don't need to do that. And then you took your clothes off and got in bed. You reflect on the day as you drop on your bed. You got distracted, but with the others' help, you made progress. You made progress, not progress. If you keep on, your game will finish in no time. You drift to dreamland thinking, I'll definitely make it tomorrow. Ending 4, community's help. Well, I can tell you right now, sorry, I'm not going back and playing it again. Because of what I said not too long ago. So, what can we talk about? I understand. I believe that this is not our developer Ahmad Manga, right? His name is Ahmad. Yes, Ahmad Manga. I believe that this is actually not Ahmad Manga's mother tongue. I don't believe that this is, as the Germans say, his Muttersprache, meaning his mother language. He does. It's his second language. So there were some just relatively generic, not generic, but just like expected English mistakes. And yes, as Wrath of Wood said, it was cute. It was a cute little story. I think you need to force me into making decisions that are procrastinating, because it's called Procrastination Simulator. And then I actively, to see if I could, I actively chose only that which was productive. I didn't click on the ad. I didn't read any emails. I didn't go to any social media, just because I wanted to see if I could. I wanted to see if I could play Procrastination Simulator as a person who was highly dedicated to fixing their game and doing it today, right? As a non-procrastinator. And I succeeded. I succeeded very well with flying colors. I was, in fact, very productive. And so I think that you can kind of do a little bit of addition by subtraction, meaning if you really want to simulate procrastination, you need to give us a currency or something, right? Because procrastination doesn't come from, it's not a magical kind of invasive, just overall malaise and feeling. Procrastination is laziness and distraction, right? So we are rewarded for not doing the thing that we should be doing, right? And how are we rewarded? Well, we're rewarded with doing things that give us some sort of dopamine rush, meaning check social media, read shit online, which is always what I'm doing, check relevant news to our lives, meaning like if we're really into games, we read game news. If we're really into boxing, we read boxing news. We watch a Twitch stream. We watch YouTube. We watch, whatever it is that may be. We do something in order to not do the thing that we're doing. And in order to do that, we actually need to receive a reward, right? And the Procrastination Simulator actually doesn't give us a reward for procrastinating. It just gives it as a kind of a random dialogue option that you can easily avoid if you want to. And that actually kind of gives the wrong impression of what procrastination is, because procrastination is actually inescapable. Like it's extremely hard to not procrastinate. That's why it's called procrastination. Whereas this game gave me the sense that it was actually very easy to avoid. And so you need to give the player either fewer options, meaning you remove the option to go further in the story until they procrastinate, right? So they have to read Facebook. They have to go and click on that advertisement. They have to watch YouTube for 2.5 hours. They have to, right? They have to do all these things. And then the option to go further in the day becomes available, right? But what I like a little bit better is figuring out how to add some kind of point system, some kind of resource expenditure, because like I said, games are an exercise in resource expenditure. So what I would like to see is some form of expenditure of resources, some type of spending and gaining, right? So for every time you work on the game, your energy lowers, and for every time you procrastinate, your energy rises, or something along those lines. It doesn't need to be exactly that, but something along those lines. And if you work too hard on the game, then your meter it expires, it becomes empty, and then you lose all will to work on the game and you give up, right? which is what always happens to me because I get a wild hair at my ass and think I'm going to be a game developer, and I sit down and I try to learn and I watch 100 YouTube videos and I sit and code the whole day trying to figure out how to make a game, and then I get so fucking pissed because I worked too hard on it. I worked too long on it. I didn't have a steady diet of game development time that I just uninstall GameMaker entirely and go back to writing stories. Right? And that's also not very good. But now I'm also doing procrastination simulation because I'm willing to do almost anything other than write short stories. Ever since I graduated from my MFA, I'm like, I'm willing to do anything other than write short stories. And I want to write short stories. I'm just procrastinating because I know I should. And not just short stories, but work on the book that I've been working on and get back to that shit. Anyway, energy bar sounds cool. Energy bars are almost always cool. Bars, meters, numbers, bullets, health. Shit's great. Should be in all games. Some form or fashion. Especially, for the love of God, especially visual novels. Because visual novels, unfortunately, are quite dry. And it's not even their fault. It's that they're competing with two mediums simultaneously, and they're a little bit weak at both of them. They're competing with games, and they're kind of not very good games, and they're competing with novels, and they're not very good stories most of the time. Right? And I'm not saying the Procrastination Simulator is a bad story. It's not a bad story, but it's not, it's not Lord of the Rings, right? So how can you differentiate it? How can you differentiate this from Lord of the Rings? Well, you do it by blending it. Right? You do it by adding some more things, by creating a sense of, well, you can't get this from Lord of the Rings. Or not even Lord of the Rings. We could do a different story. We could do a story, like a short story about procrastination, right? The thing that a short story about procrastination, because this is a short story, right? This isn't a visual novel. A novel is 40,000 words. This isn't 40,000 words. This is maybe 1,500. Maybe. A short story about procrastination can show you one perspective on procrastination, and it's probably not going to be a very good story because it has no action, but anyway. And I don't mean action in terms of like guns and fucking Steven Seagal. I just mean like it's hard to display procrastination in a short story. But anyway, I digress. So a short story about procrastination is going to involve something to the effect of a character who has a goal and refuses to meet it, right? And you can only really have the character have that one goal, and you can only really have them behave according to the beginning of the story, right? Because it's a narrative and it's linear and there's nothing you can do about it. And then converse that or compare that to a game in which you can actually gamify the procrastination, right? And you can actually make procrastination the fun part about the story. Because the story, the short story, the print fiction short story, kind of can't make the procrastination the fun part. It has to make the overcoming of the procrastination the fun part. It has to do a bunch of things. It needs to get the ally in there so that the ally can attack the protagonist and say, you need to get on your shit, dog. You need to get on your shit and stop procrastinating. His mom, the main character's mom, for example. It needs to have it needs to kind of bake in and build in the reason why the character is procrastinating that needs to speak a little bit above the concept of procrastination, right? It can't just be procrastination. It needs to be a little bit more than procrastination in a short story. It needs to be procrastination because the father died in January, right? In games, you don't have to do that. You can actually just gamify the procrastination and call it a day. Now, I say call it a day like it's super easy, and I know it's not easy because you actually have to design game mechanics around it. So it's not that it's that easy. It's just that that is the version, right? Where the writer is baking in the procrastination from the dad dying in January is the same effect that the game developer is baking into their game by designing the game mechanics around the central emotional core of the story, which is procrastination. Right? You can have the mechanics convey the emotion. You can force the player to experience the emotion of procrastination, because procrastination is very frustrating, right? And if you know that procrastination is very frustrating, you can really use that to your effect to frustrate the fuck out of the player. You don't want to frustrate them too much, because then they'll just close the game and never play it again. But like you can force them to be frustrated that they aren't getting their shit done, right? And that is a very strong thing that games can do that a short story will never be able to do. The most we could ever feel is, God damn it, why won't this guy get off his ass and go fucking finish his thing? It'll always, always be a third person feeling. I wish that Luke Skywalker would just fucking already get on with being a water or moisture farmer. God damn it, quit procrastinating. That's the best we got with print fiction. Hopefully that makes sense, because that's the last thing we're going to do on the stream today, because I got to take my dog out, and I've been streaming for 2 hours to precisely one person. So what was I going to say? Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. It was nice chatting with you. Wrath of Wood, particularly. And I hope that people who watch this video get something out of it. We'll see. And how many more do we have? We have Pick Me Up, Journey Within, Rinzai's Game, and I don't think we are going to play Harm Inspection because it didn't work. I tried, but it didn't work. Cool, man. Yeah, peace. I haven't said that in 10 years, so I'm going to say it how I normally say it. Goodbye.